This is Peter, and so Peter's a little shit.
Oh.
But I like him.
He's trying to get away now. You want to get comfy? All right.
We have 2 dogs.
Can you sit down? Sit.
And here's how they began. Jenna brought home the dogs separately, and somehow, because of her travel schedule, I inherited the taking care of them. And I'm not necessarily a dog guy. Now, I'm going to talk about this, and I know that I'm going to get a hate mail. There's going to be people outside my house with torches. But first of all, they get treated very well. Let's just, so no one loses their mind. These dogs get treated very well. But I'm not particularly a dog person, but I've come to...
That would require love and compassion.
Of which I have a lot of for my wife and children.
Children.
Children, wife.
Not wife.
Yes. But I'm not the biggest compassionate guy when it comes to putting up with the foibles of dogs. And so of our 2 dogs, one of them has adhered to the rules of the family and is very cooperative and, generally gets along with everybody.
That's Rocco.
And then there's this dog. Now, this dog is a little bit of a shithead. Well, he's a funny guy. Like, there's many times where we think he's deaf because of how much he refuses to listen to us. But then when you say certain words, he whips around. I think he's living in, like, his own universe. He's a survivalist. So he definitely
is strongly oriented to the things that are the main cores of life or death, which is food.
Right. So he steals...
And water.
Yeah.
So he'll drink, because he was a wild guy. He was found roaming the desert. So I think he got water from whatever source he could get. So he prefers to drink the pool water and then the water from in the trays of the potted plants, because I think he's used to water that has stuff in it as part of his survival.
Our filtered reverse osmosis water that we have put in a nice glass dish. There. Won't touch it. Wants the pool water.
And then food. He is a sociopath.
He's a sociopath.
Like,
he steals our kids' foods out of their hands, follows them around the house.
Things that don't exist. If you're watching this, you can see he'll suddenly snap and catch things in the air that aren't there.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this guy, but the thing that there's a couple things that make me nutso. Number one is he steals the kids' food. So, you feed the kids, you put a lot of attention to getting healthy food for the kids, you spend money on healthy organic food, and he'll chomp down, a healthy organic grass-fed steak when my kid is turned the other way. And it makes me nuts. Like, you've cooked your son a nice steak, you've got it at the health food store, you feel really good about it, your kid is eating steak, and you're like, man, I just fed my kid something really healthy. My son turns away for 2 seconds, the dog is eating the steak. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me batty, but he does it every day. So we've gotten to the point now...
Oh, and is undisciplined, like you can't discipline, undisciplinable.
Undisciplinable.
He doesn't He doesn't. It creates no effect on him.
Can't make him feel bad about it.
You can put him in his cage. You can put him outside and say no, and it means nothing.
So what I've gotten in the habit of doing is at meal times, I put him either outside or in his cage. Now, I don't like putting him in his cage. It
Well, he
feels
likes
shitty.
his cage. He likes to sleep, and he's crate trained.
Yeah, but I prefer to put him outside. But when I put him outside, he scratches the door. So all the windows of the house by the doors have scratch marks on them, every one of them, because he scratches when he wants to come in. The other dog, you put him outside and he just looks at you like, can I come in now? This one scratches. So that's one thing he does that makes me batty. The other thing he does is he has no spatial awareness for jumping on you. So
He's a goat.
So he will jump on your face while you're lying down or sleeping. So if my kids are sleeping and he comes out and we let him out of his crate for the night, he will jump on their faces and wake them up. So we have learned that we can't take him out of his crate until everybody in the house is awake, which kind of sucks. Like he's
high maintenance.
the worst.
I mean, it's not like he's incontinent or something. But yeah, he's when I first got him, I was driving and I had the window cracked open so he could have some fresh air. And I came to a red light, like 5 cars back, with a cross. You know, it wasn't like I was right at a corner. I was in the middle of the street. And he jumped out of the car.
Jumped out of the car.
So I had to put it in park, go into traffic, run, and get him.
When we first...
He's really snuggly. That's the thing. He's
a great
so
snuggler.
unbelievable. He's like those cats that are called ragdoll cats, where you literally could just put them in any position and they just are like, all right. That's him. And so he's so fun to...
He's very sweet in the cuddle department.
In the cuddle department, which
But
I
doesn't
thought would
adhere-
make up for the other parts, but it gets to be a little... He actually snapped at me the other day when he got the kid's food in his
You got
mouth.
a PETA. He
Yeah,
took
and I
a
was trying to
PETA.
get it out, and he turned complete sociopath, psychotic, savage on me, and bared his teeth, and was like, rah, 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 like
Because
trying
we
to
tried to
attack me,
take
because I
the
was trying to
PETA
get
from
the PETA back.
When we first got him, he ran away. And Jenna was out of town. And did we tell this story on the podcast? Well, we can tell part of the story. We can't tell all of the story.
Well, he wasn't fixed yet, because I was fostering him for a week to see if it worked out with Rocco. And
our other
he
dog.
wasn't yet fixed. You can't adopt a dog that's not fixed, but we hadn't adopted him yet. We were just fostering him because he had just come in the shelter. He had just arrived that day that I was there, and so I took him home for the night to like foster him for a few days to see if he got along with Rocco, and he got out because he wanted to continue to try to
patrol Earth.
and plant his seeds.
So I come home and I realize he's gone. And Jenna's out of town. And
No, I was at an event.
weren't you out of town?
No, I was at an event.
I thought you were out of town.
I was not. I was at
An event. So I took the boys in the car and we're patrolling the neighborhood to try to find him, because I didn't want Jenna to come home from out of town event and realize that the dog was gone.
I knew exactly what event I was at, because
Okay.
I was going to leave that event once because you couldn't reach me because I had my phone off because I was in the audience and presenting
Okay.
at an award show.
Okay.
And then once I could get on my phone, I found out about it and was going to pick him up from the people who did find him, which we're not going to go into that saga.
We're not going into that saga.
But I was going to, and then a whole other thing played out. But we eventually got him. But anyway,
But it was a fucking nightmare.
it was a nightmare.
And
Because
then
the kids got very emotional about losing
sure.
him.
And we drove around all night looking for him. Anyway, one day I wish we could tell the saga of what happened that night, but Jenna's really good about keeping the politics of interdynamics in, and I'm not. But it'll be in my memoirs.
Memoirs,
Memoirs.
not memoirs. Unless you're going to wire each chapter
So-
to somewhere on Earth.
So he ran away again not too long ago. And what happened
I
is...
was out of town for that one.
Got it. Maybe that was the one you were out of town for. So what happened was I was somewhere and I got all these calls from an odd number. And I call it back, and there was a gardener in our neighborhood that had found him and had called the number on his caller and was like, I have your dog. I was like, so So
Did you have a moment where you were like, maybe gonna go, no, not mine?
I absolutely had a moment of like, I think you're thinking of someone else, or you must have misdialed. I don't have a dog like that. But once again, I thought about how to report back to you that.
Also, he's got a chip. So even if the collar came off or someone,
Yeah. So here's what happened. So I got a call. I was like, crap. So I was like, all right. When I got the call, I was actually down the block running errands, and I was like, all right, hold on to the dog. I'll be there in a few minutes. So I pull up. He said what address he was at. He was a gardener, and he was holding the dog out in front of the house that he was working on. And I pull up, and he says, is this your dog? Because I pull up, and I'm like, yeah. Now, Peter looks at me and then looks away, right? And I say, Peter, Peter. And as we mentioned earlier, he has this thing where he doesn't acknowledge you.
Unless it's like greenie,
Like for food.
walk, treat.
If it's not in the 3 categories that he listens to, he'll ignore you. To where we thought he was deaf several times and did like clapping exercises to see, can he hear? But then
Kind of like you. It's like a husband. Sex, food,
Sex?
drink.
What do you mean?
Other than that, it's
Drink?
just,
Wait, what do you mean drink? I don't drink.
For most men, I'm just saying.
okay.
You know what weird?
So I say, Peter, Peter, and he doesn't look at me. So I'm like, Peter, Peter, I'm in my car. The gardener's on the stoops of the house he's working at, holding the dog, and Peter's like that. So now it's awkward because now the gardener thinks I'm just trying to steal a dog, that I have nothing to do with the dog.
The dog's showing no affection for you.
The dog shows no recognition, 0 recognition that I'm his master.
If you had had pizza in your hand.
So I got out of the car, and which I shouldn't have had to do. I should have just said Peter, and he would have been like. But now the gardener's like skeptical and is like holding the dog tighter.
He's like wondering if he's doing a bad thing to the dog by giving it to you.
Yeah. Now he thinks like he's sold him to someone that steals random dogs to sell them to restaurants. So I have to get out of the car, and then I'm like, Peter, Peter, and he still won't acknowledge me.
Yeah, but Peter, this is Peter's inner life. Oh, you're nice to me now? Anyway,
eventually, eventually, I don't know what I did, but I somehow got the dog to sort of like look at me and acknowledge that I wasn't a stranger. And the gardener sort of reluctantly handed him to me. But in his mind, the gardener was like, I hope that you are the owner. I hope that I haven't just given a dog away to a dog killer. So these are the things that the dog does. The other day, Jenna had gotten to bed very late and needed sleep. And I had walked by and I saw Peter was at her foot of the bed. I was like, oh shit. So I walked over to get him, and as I walk over to get him, he's crawling up.
Because you thought he was going to wake me up later.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, I better grab him now. He's going to wake Jen up. And he does a jump, literally jumps to land on Jenna's face while she's sound asleep. And I know she'd probably just gotten to bed. She had to do some stuff late, and it kept her up. So it's 7 a.m. She probably had gone to bed at 5. And I see that he's going to jump on her face. He's mid-jump. In the middle of the jump, I lunge over and I grab him mid-jump from your face, like literally, and he goes, ah, and attacks me, like savagely starts to gnaw on me with his nubs because he thinks I'm harming him. And I was like, you son of a bitch, all I want to do is save you from jumping on Jenna's face. I don't think there is a man alive, and tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe you can't. Maybe you can. I don't think there isn't a man alive that at some point in his life hasn't thought about like punting his dog like a great distance. Like doesn't want any harm to come to the dog, but that hasn't thought about like just doing like a punt. Be honest with me. Has that occurred? Yeah. I don't think there's a man alive that hasn't thought that thought.
I've thought about doing that to you, but not to an innocent creature with fur.
I don't think there's a wife alive that hasn't thought about punting her husband. Hasn't thought about it just like where you haven't thought about just giving me a good fucking kick.
Oh, God.
I know. That's how sometimes I feel about Peter, where I'm like, I don't want to hurt him. But God, just just where you feel the sound of the, and then you see kind of the launch. Like, I don't want him to be hurt. I just want the airborne visual of that dog just like that's.
It's a cartoon fantasy.
Yeah, it's a cartoon fantasy. But dogs have sort of taken on a role. For those of you that don't know anything about Los Angeles or don't live here, the city has been...
Or Austin or New York.
It's taken over by dogs. They rule the city.
People have stopped having children and they have dogs as their offspring
and
now.
they bring them into
and they put
cafes, restaurants.
As much energy and creativity that goes into like raising a kid has been redirected into canine existence.
Something
and I'm
happened.
a dog lover.
Jen, she's a dog lover.
But...
And I'm not.
When you... to see the amount... When it gets a little lopsided, when the dog can walk fine, but the dog's in a stroller. I don't quite get it. If the dogs can't walk, if they're disabled and they're in a stroller to get them to go to the bath, I get it.
Lost its fucking
But when
mind.
they put a dog that can walk fine in a stroller or a Bjorny, sling...
And they go to coffee shops...
That isn't disabled.
They bring them in to coffee shops. They bring them into restaurants. They bring them... The dogs are allowed everywhere. The dogs are allowed in places that...
I like it when dogs are in places, though. I don't mind it. You're finickier about it. I like it when there's a dog next to me on the airplane or when I'm somewhere in a restaurant and there's a doggy. I get excited because I love having canines as part of our life. But it does feel a little out of control. Oh.
I don't think dogs should be allowed in restaurants. I don't think they should be allowed where we eat our food. I'm going to get hate mail because people are so attached to their dog now. People are treating their dogs as if they're not only their kids, but as if they're royal kids, like as if it's their prince. Like, oh, it's the young emperor.
Right. Yeah, it has a little bit
who
of
has
that.
thousands of generations under him. We must protect the young emperor. And I'm not allowed to talk about a subject I wish I could talk about because Jenna won't let me. Jenna is the kindest, most caring, and very socially aware individual on earth. I think that the parameters of what should be considered for what are they called for a helper dog? What are they called?
Therapy dog?
Therapy dog. I think the parameters should be far more stringent of what is considered a therapy dog because I think people are taking advantage of.
Well, I know they are. I know so many people I come across that are like, oh, I just say it is so that I don't have to pay the $100 to bring him on the plane with me. When I travel with my dog, pay the $100 and I don't lie and say it's a therapy dog. Though he's a little dog and I could have him on my lap and say it's a therapy dog if I wanted to lie, but I don't and I pay the $100.
I see
Not everybody does that.
I feel that a very large portion of the travelers on planes, we fly a lot, and now there's one or two on every plane. And I feel that there is a real need for people under certain circumstances where it's very valid and caring and wonderful.
Yeah, like if there's certain dogs that can foretell if a seizure's coming for an epileptic.
It isn't even
very
a question.
valid. Like
it
those
isn't
are
even a question.
Legit therapy dogs, but it's a little out of control.
So what happened was we were taking a plane and I called to check in my family, my wife and 2 kids for the plane ride. And one of my sons had been booted away from his mom and his brother to the back of the plane. And I called up, I was like,
when you were reserving seats?
No.
When you booked your tickets?
Nope.
Oh, you had already booked them.
They were done.
Already done.
I was checking in.
Oh, checking in.
The seats were bought.
And they're minors. It's on there that they're minors.
And
9 years
I
old.
called up and I was like, what? Why is my son on the back of the plane? I bought these tickets. They should be right up at the front with his mom and his brother. And what I was told was a person with a therapy dog takes precedent over a child, and a person with a therapy dog needed that seat. So the kid was punted out. And I went, wait.
And it was probably, but with how people violate this, and I'd say 80% of the dogs on planes are not therapy dogs.
So I called up and I was like, wait a minute. You can't just take a kid out of a seat.
Away from his parents.
And she was like, well, technically you can't, but because he was on his own itinerary, you and the youngest were on one itinerary, he was on another. Okay. they didn't look that he was 12. They just saw him on his own itinerary, figured he's out, and to put him on the back. So here's what happened. I lost my shit. I was kind with the person on the phone because it's not her fault. But I said, listen, I just want you to know that I'm going to lose my shit. So I don't want you to have to be the person to hear me lose my shit. You're a sweet person on the phone. Can you put me on the person who should properly hear me lose my shit? Because I'm about to lose it. And she said, hold on a second. And she put me on the phone with the manager, and I said, okay, so listen, I'm going to lose my shit with you. Again, it's also not your fault, but you're the manager. You're the appropriate person for me to lose my shit. But here's what happened.
That was a very analytical entrance.
I explained the whole thing, and I said, so, tell me, are you going to put my son back in his seat and tell the person with the therapy dog that they need to find a new spot? Or am I going to lose my shit? It's going to be one of two options. And she said, hold on a second. And I got put on hold for 15 minutes, and she came back, and she said, I have moved the person with the therapy dog into another seat that they have approved. Your son is back in his seat. And I said, thank you. We are done here. Have a wonderful day.
And then when we were on the flight, I can pretty much guarantee you that was not a therapy dog.
Because you saw the person that had punted my son out of the seat. And it was just someone traveling with their dog.
With their little dog.
With their little dog.
And they didn't want to pay the $100 because that person did not have anxiety. That person was a perfectly happy person with their happy dog.
I suppose someone could say, well, they didn't have anxiety because they were traveling with their therapy dog. Mm-hmm. That could be the case. Maybe because they were with their therapy dog, they looked perfectly, absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe they looked perfectly, completely at ease.
Yeah.
If I was a betting man, I would say, bullshit. What if I felt that due to certain circumstances, I could only travel with my therapy python? That without my therapy python, that I would undergo unbelievable stress. And so
your therapy boa, because you needed to hug you.
I want my
safe
therapy
while
boa.
flying.
Now he's been defanged. He's not going to bite anybody, but he's a therapy boa. Would that be okay? So I just travel with my big.
I often think about this. Like, what if someone is sitting next to someone with a quote unquote therapy dog, and it's bullshit. It's not therapy. They've lied. And you have someone with extreme allergies.
I know the answer.
What is the answer?
The therapy dog take precedent. The only person above the therapy dog is artificial limbs or wheelchairs, which is valid beyond valid.
Right.
But anyone else, the therapy dog takes precedent for. Mm-hmm. Children, peanut allergies, medical conditions, unless it's a wheelchair or an artificial limb.
I'd really like to know the ratio of people who say it's a therapy dog and fill out the bullshit forms from their thing saying that it's for anxiety or whatever. The percentage of actual people who actually need the dog and the percentage of bullshit hipsters who don't want to pay $100 to travel with their fucking dog because I'd love to know what the actual numbers are.
It's when I wish I had a time machine where someone could say, but if I don't travel with my dog, I get anxiety. Because 100 years ago, the person would say, oh, I'm going to smack you on the face until you snap into it.
It's not really how it works, but...
100 years ago, it'd been
Does
like,
that mean I can smack you in your face for your anxiety?
Yes. Yes, please.
Let's do it.
But if I have my therapy boa, I'm fine. If I travel with my therapy, I think that there's a lot of catering in this world, or catering to the weakest link, and I feel that it doesn't benefit people that truly do need help. Because when everyone is complaining that they have some ailment that needs special treatment, there are people that really do need help that then lose out because it's like,
No, I've met some amazing actual therapy dogs, and I knew someone whose their leg they had a knee that would give out because they had some kind of chronic illness that affected their balance and their
equilibrium and all that.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And the dog could perceive that right before that would happen, and he would put himself up against her, and she would hold on to him, and it would keep her from falling. And he was a German Shepherd. He was extraordinary. And then I know some epileptics that have a dog that can
Incredible.
perceive before the seizure starts, so that they can sit down or prepare their body so that it's safe when a seizure is about to come.
Those dogs should be awarded heroes.
That's all.
I just
But,
fucking had.
neurotic hipsters.
Wait, I just had a marriage-saving idea. I think I may have started a multi-million-dollar business and saved our marriage and many others. You need to find and train dogs that can alert when their husbands are being absolute assholes, that can herd the husband away and alert the wife with a warning, either a whine or a growl, so the dog herds me away and then gives you some alert like he's being crazy or an asshole, stay away. And then herds me into a darkened space and licks me or cuddles me until I'm no longer an asshole. Isn't that incredible? I just saved our marriage. We need an asshole therapy dog. Can we train one of our little fuckers to do that? No, well, one of them clearly can't.
No, I think we need one bigger.
To accommodate the size of my assholicness? Okay, fair enough.
And one that won't turn on you for being the asshole. Because it may feel that it needs to protect the family and take you down to save and protect the family. Could be dangerous. So we need one that's really fluffy and hypoallergenic and good-natured so that it keeps proper equilibrium and doesn't actually do the right thing, which would be to eat you alive.